Hello, everyone. Today's date is April 2nd, 2023. We have a Israeli-Palestinian Confederation simulation with Dr. Yila Livnat Ranan. She joined the simulation, and we will introduce her in a second. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation believes in the creation of a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine. A government that would be based on democracy, democratic principles, based on elections, based on equality, a secular government that will be independent and separate from the Palestinian governments and the Israeli government. We are not proposing the dismantling of the Palestinian or the Israeli government. But if you really think about it, neither one of them is a legitimate government of the whole area from the river to the sea, Israel, Palestine, that would include Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. Neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian governments are legitimate governments for that whole area because they are not elected by the entire population. We are proposing the creation of a legitimate government based on secular principle for the entire area, based on elections that would represent the 14 million people that include Gaza, West Bank, and Israel. My name is Joseph Avasar, and you can reach me at josephavassar@gmail.com. We have a constitution. The constitution is on our website, ipconfederation.org. It's in 3 languages, Arabic, Hebrew, and English. If you go to any of those languages and you click the Constitution, you will see that the common government has 3 branches: a parliament, which is the legislative branch, an executive branch, which is the president and vice president, and a judicial branch, which are judges, Palestinians and Israelis together based on equality. Like I said, we are not proposing the dismantling of the Israeli or the Palestinian government. We are proposing the creation of a common third government that would represent the people of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza, Israel, Palestine. Okay. Today we have Dr. Yila Livnat Ranan. Dr. Yila Livnat Ranan received her PhD in anthropology from the University of Utah after studying mathematics and contemporary Jewry at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. She is an active member of a growing movement in Israel-Palestine, Women Wage Peace, which demands the cessation of violence between Palestinians and Jews. She is a member of Kol Acher, which in Hebrew means another voice, demanding justice and peace for the people in Gaza, and was an active member of Mahsom Watch, which in Hebrew means watching the checkpoints, advocating for human rights for Palestinians and Israelis at all checkpoints. She's the director of the Negev Council for recognized villages in the Negev, and a parliamentary advisor for the Israeli-Palestinian Knesset member, Mansour Abbas. She teaches society and economy at Sapir College in Israel. Next time, on April 16, we will have Professor Oren Iftahel. He is a professor that advocates for Land for All, which is another proposal for peace, but I believe it's really based on two-state solution. We are not based on two-state solution. We are proposing the creation of a common government for the whole area, based on equality, based on democracy. On April 30th, 2023, we will have Sam Bahour and Bernard Avishai. One is Palestinian American, one is Israeli American. I happen to have interviewed both of them for my movie Surviving Peace, and I presented the formula that is being presented to you today. Sam Bahour appeared to be enthusiastic about it, and Bernard Avishai was dismissive of it. But this we are talking about 6 or 7 years ago. Since then, they wrote a New York Times op-ed supporting an Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. However, I believe they combined, they have a different formula than what we have. We will have on May 14, Bennett Romberg. He is an international relation expert, mostly dealing with nuclear weapons and proliferation, which have to do with the Middle East as well. Then we will have Professor Shlomo Sand. He's a professor of history at Tel Aviv University. On June 11, we will not have a simulation. We will have a vacation, and then we'll start again. We had many people speaking at our simulations, and some of them have already recorded videos in support of the simulations, in support of our formula for peace after they participated in the simulation. The simulation takes approximately 120 minutes, including the discussions. We present several segments, and we ask our speaker to opine upon each segment. We also present a constitution, and we ask her to opine about our constitution. And then we'll have a closing remark and question and answers first the question and answer, and then the closing remark. I'd like to play a video that explains our vision for a common government.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
I believe that the common government will not only help the relationship between the Palestinians and Israelis, but also the relationship that we see is breaking down in Israel itself. We usually conduct a pre-simulation survey, and I'd like to do it now. Please vote at this time. Do you support a common government? And then we will have the same survey after the simulation is done today. So please vote at this time. Do you support a common government? Give it another, okay. Could you please publish the vote? So 16 out of 17 voted yes. That's 94%. And 1 out of 17 voted no, and that's 6%. Stop sharing this. Okay, yeah, okay, share the results. We believe that the common government would make peace between Israel and Palestine and its neighbors. That means the neighbors that are outside the area of Israel, Palestine. But I also believe that it will help the Israelis who are suffering from severe breakdown, which in my opinion is directly related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, even though they do not admit it. We are not anti-Israeli, we are not anti-Palestinians. We are pro-peace. Our speaker today, Dr. Raanan, she is not a spokesperson for the IPC. She's invited to stress test the IPC, to opine about the IPC. She happened to live in the town of Kisufim, which is next door to Gaza, and she will have a personal opinion based on the violence that she sees almost on regular basis. We are pro-peace. We follow our own narrative. We expect that once there is a common government, it will follow its own narrative. It's not going to be the Israeli narrative or the Palestinian narrative. It will be a nationwide narrative. Nationwide means Israel, Palestine. We expect to have rigorous discussion with Dr. Raanan. I had a telephone discussion with her, and I do believe it will be a rigorous discussion. We do not preclude other formulas for peace. In fact, we encourage, and we will present other formulas if other organizations want to present their formula. And we are not claiming exclusivity. We will ask Dr. Raanan to judge our formula for peace based on these three criteria. Could the IPC, could the common government attain peace? Is the IPC plan implementable? Is there a downside for either the Israelis or the Palestinians for implementing this formula? But we will ask Dr. Raanan to judge it fairly, based on, not based on perfection, but based on the alternative. The impression that I had when I spoke with with Dr. Ranan, that that's going to be the issue. Perfection versus the alternative. And will be asking her if she accept or not accept the formula, to judge it based on the alternative, not based on perfection. We have many, many legislations that we can demonstrate how a common government, even though it gives veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian government, how it could make peace and how it can survive a veto, how it can survive the Israeli and the Palestinian governments ignoring it. But we cannot show you all the legislation because of the limited time that we have. We ask you during the simulation to look at the big pictures and avoid technical arguments and refrain from comments, but we are encouraging you to ask questions. Questions are very good. We like questions. So if you want to say things like, this is unrealistic, Israel will never allow this to happen, these are comments that you can put in the chat. If you have other comments, put in the chat, or you can reserve that to the end. But here are some questions that you may want to ask if you feel that it's necessary to clarify the issue. These are the facts that we are working on, that the Israeli Prime Minister represents Israelis only. In other words, he's elected by Israelis, he represents Israelis only. Palestinian leaders represents Palestinians only. Like I said, neither one of them represent the whole area. We are asking you to assume, now this is for the purpose of the simulation, that we conducted online election that lasted 3 months, that the election allowed 14 million people to vote, excluding minors. We want you to assume that 5 million people voted, that 3 million Palestinians voted, and 2 million Israeli voted, that the president received 1.5 million votes, that Joseph, I was elected as the president, and a vice president, an Israeli lady received, as a Palestinian lady received 1.3 million votes. We will rotate in 2 years. I also want you to assume that 300 parliament members were elected, and each parliament member represents 47,000 people. Because if you divide 14 million by 300, you'll get 47,000. These are the assumptions that I want you to make for the purpose of the simulation, and we are going to conduct the simulation as if those assumptions are true. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ranan first. Are you willing to accept those assumptions?
I'd like to ask a question, okay?
Sure.
Hi, everybody. Call me Yaela, if you can.
Yeah, okay.
And my question is, when you said the Israeli prime minister, he represents only Israelis and the Palestinian, only the Palestinians, where do you put the Palestinians who are citizens of Israel, here or there?
The Palestinians, citizens of Israel, are well, there are two issues. One is for voting purposes, it doesn't really matter if they are here or there, because they will be allowed to vote in their district for the parliament and for the president. As far as running, it depends on how they represent themselves. If they represent themselves as Palestinians or Israelis, but in general, they're probably based on their identity cards. They are either Israeli or Palestinian. So Israelis generally Palestinian Israelis are Israelis.
Okay, and the settlers are also Israelis.
Yes, if they for purposes of running, if they present themselves as Israelis, then they are Israelis.
Okay.
Any other?
No, it just makes it confusing, but I'm fine with your assumptions.
Okay. Does the audience have questions about the assumptions?
Oh, can I have one more question?
Sure,
Sorry, Joe.
sure.
How do you divide it up into districts? I mean, do you make districts with 49, 51%, or how do you do it?
No, the districts are 300 districts. So
Yeah.
based on mathematical algorithm, you take
That's fine.
4 million people and you divide it and you just create, let's say you start from Gaza. So you take an area in Gaza of 47,000 people, that would be district number 1.
Okay, let me exactly. It's a wonderful example. The closest community I live to is Khan Yunis. Do I belong to Khan Yunis, or do I belong to something that has mostly Israeli Jews? That's my question. How do you cut up these districts? Who has the right to do so?
It would be cut off by a mathematic formula, but for the purpose of assumption, you could be the town of Kisufim could be included in the town of Khan Yunis. We do not, the borders is immaterial to us. The border between Gaza and Israel is immaterial.
Can I just, wonderful, okay. So I'm just going to present here an issue that might come up, just like the Republicans and the Democrats in the United States are playing with those district thingies. It could happen also here. For example, if you put me as part of Khan Yunis, which is the closest community or city to where I live, then my vote will be, completely thrown away, because I am like a community of 200 among an area of millions of Palestinians. So you can that can happen, and it can be a source of conflict and issues within the government. That's it. I'm shutting up. Sorry.
I have a question to the lady. Good morning. So you consider yourself as living in settlement, as a settler?
No, I don't. I live inside the borders of 1948. So
okay.
It's not a settlement.
All right.
Okay. And I have one question for you, Joseph, because I've been thinking about it, like when Miss Yela, I'm sorry, she asked the question about
Yaela.
All the variations are fine. It's not a name to be spoken for English speakers.
Okay.
Regarding the Palestinians who live in 1948, you call them Arab Israel or Palestinian Israeli, but they don't call themselves Israeli because they have no choice to choose their government and no choice to carry their citizenship. It was forced on them, and they have to accept it.
What is the question?
Let me finish, please. So my question is, why don't we look at all Palestinian? Every Palestinian is the same, because in reality, there is no such a thing no different thing between Gaza and West Bank. We both under illegal governments, and the Palestinian who lives in 1948 is considered Palestinian. So why don't we say Israel and Palestine only, not Gaza and West Bank? And this is just an idea, a thought, Thank you.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, you're right. I am trying to say Israel and Palestine, but a lot of times people, I'm trying to emphasize that it includes Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. So I am trying to, that comment came up last time, and I am saying Israel, Palestine. And let me respond to our guest. You're saying that there could be the same as in America, where the configuration of the district is really immaterial. Why? Because it's not based on one party or another. It's based on 55%. So let's assume that your assumption is correct, that we will have more Palestinian or more Israeli. Doesn't matter, because you still need 55% of the Palestinian and 55% of the Israeli. So if you have 160 Palestinian and 140 Israelis, you will need 55% of the 140 and 55% of the 150. So it's not giving any more power to one side or another. Okay? Is that good?
Okay.
All right. I believe that the assumptions are are possible, because if you consider how much it costs to have 1 day of war between Israel and Gaza, it's over 100 million a day of 1 day of war. In other words, the war could erupt today, and $100 million is being wasted on a war. With $100 million, we could have these assumptions, the elections, and everything becomes a reality. I see 2 participants raise their hands. That's all I see. So could you please speak up?
Hi.
Me?
Talking
Can you hear
to
me?
Mark.
Oh,
I'm
Rita
Yeah.
was first.
Okay, I'm the next. Okay. And I wanted to mention that Yaela was talking about something called gerrymandering. And
Yes.
everybody should take a look at, there are some videos that are very good explaining how gerrymandering pushes what seems to be democratic processes into a very twisted kind of thing. And as the gentleman, Mr. Saeed, well, his first name is Saeed, excuse me, sir, mentioned, there's a significance to identity, and to be caught up in the kind of majority, wherever you are, will lose you your own identity. So as Yaela was speaking before, being a smaller group within perhaps a larger group, the majority rule is sometimes dangerous. It sometimes impacts.
Yeah, but this is not a majority rule. This is, you need 55% of the Israelis.
I understand, but if, let's say, in each one of the districts, there is some convolution as to identity, and people don't realize it beforehand, it has to be thought out a little bit more clearly than just taking groups in one area or another area and scooping them up from 47,000. It has to be more carefully articulated because
Yeah,
of the danger
okay.
that we see here.
All right, let's go to the next. Who is the next person then?
Troy Davis.
Yeah, hi, Troy.
Okay, I think the previous speaker is actually correct, Joseph. Sorry to contradict you. There is a problem, even the way you have it now, even with your answer, it doesn't avoid the problem of potentially within each district, people losing to a majority vote, and then therefore that district is represented in a way which is not proportional. I think the
Right.
answer, unless I misunderstood, I think the answer is that you don't have a district, you just have one, you don't have 300 districts, you just have one district. I mean, the entire country, in fact, both
Yeah.
countries, you consider both countries together as one district, and you have proportional representation. So every party has, every electoral list has, if they get 25% of the vote anywhere within Israel or Palestine, because remember,
Look,
you
if
can have
you have a
political
different,
parties
wait, Troy, if you have a different plan, I am not going to consider a different plan at this time. Submit it
No, it's
to,
not a different plan.
you
I'm suggesting
you are saying a different plan, okay? Look at
it's
this.
just a different district because your plan is
No,
just.
we have 300 districts, and you're saying
Okay.
there could be a minority within that district. I agree, but look at what we asked you to do. We asked you to judge it not based on perfection, but based on the alternative. Now, if you have an alternative, present it, but not now because you need to present it. There's no way for me to judge what you are presenting just on a moment decision. But all right, let's go on. We are asking you to volunteer. We need volunteers for this simulation. We need a volunteer for Israeli Prime Minister, PA leader, and Hamas leader. Can I get a volunteer for those functions at this time? I need a volunteer for Israeli Prime Minister? Do we have a volunteer to act?
I'm willing to be the Israeli Prime Minister, Sharon.
Okay, Sharon, hi, thank you. Do I have a PA leader?
I go with the PA.
Okay,
And Sharon, don't be too much prime minister because we don't, as Palestinian, we don't like this prime minister so much.
Okay. Me neither.
Okay, most of the Israeli Jews don't like this one either.
okay, and I need a Hamas leader. Do I have a volunteer to be a Hamas leader in this simulation?
Yeah, I'll do it, Joseph.
Okay, Carrie, terrific, thank you. All right. The rest of you will have to act as either Israeli or Palestinian parliament member. And this is where the question of the district will maybe clarified. So let me show you a map of the area. I will be asking you to choose and to remain intellectually honest throughout the simulation, whether you are Israeli or Palestinian, representing a particular district, okay? So make a decision right now if you are Israeli or Palestinian, and I may ask you, what city are you representing? What town are you representing? And Yaela, you could also be a parliament member for this simulation. That will help. All right, so let's take a sample vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote yes, so we know how many Palestinian parliament members we have. Okay, right now I see 9 Palestinian parliament members. And let's have Israeli parliament members. Okay, I see 10 Israeli parliament members. Terrific. This is the first time we have more Israelis than Palestinians. All right. Share the, okay, so we have, and you'll need to decide what area do you represent. All right. The first order of business we have is a constitution. We have a large, the full constitution is on our website. This is a condensed version of the constitution. Maybe would you be so kind as to read the constitution?
We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges, with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
All right, so the important thing is here that we do not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli government. They can do whatever they want inside those governments and within the two. They can decide on 2 states, they can decide on 1 state. Constitutionally, we are prohibited from undermining any agreements between those two governments, or the Palestinians and the Israeli government. We also agree that when we pass legislation that has to do with their domain of and control, we will give them a veto power over that legislation. So at this time, does anyone have any questions regarding the Constitution? Yaela, do you have any questions regarding this Constitution?
I do. Not the Constitution, but rather the purpose. The idea is to be a permanent situation or to be a process to peace. I could not understand that. Did you
Both.
understand the question?
Both. It's a formula for peace and it's a formula for a permanent. We are the government. We want to be the permanent government for the people of Israel and Palestine.
Which means once it's instituted, this common government, that's it. This is what is going to be. It's not a stepping stone to a different kind of situation.
Correct. And the existence or non-existence of and we are not dependent on the existence or non-existence of the Israeli or the Palestinian government. If the Israeli or the Palestinian governments disappear in 20 years or 30 years or 50 years, we will still be the government of Israel Palestine.
And if they turn into dictatorships?
We will still decide whether we want to give them a veto power.
Okay.
I like that last question because it's it will happen definitely, where a lot of people, when they sit in power, they want to keep sitting in the same place.
Look, this is a political struggle between us and the other governments. Okay, we claim to be the only legitimate government of the whole area. If there are other institutions, other governments, we will deal with them at the time. We are not dependent on them for that they exist or not exist. If, as far as we are concerned, if they did not exist at all, it would have been better. But we are dealing with the reality that they do exist at this time. Any other questions?
Yes. I don't understand. Maybe your answer is we're not thinking this through on purpose, okay? But let's assume you manage to do these elections, okay? Assume there is enough cooperation and the elections come through. You need
Right.
some kind of acceptance of the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority and Hamas that you have some kind of power in the region. Is that going to be created through the acceptance of all governments of the existence of this one? How is it going to work? Or you're just saying, leave that alone, we'll come to that later on?
We already received our legitimacy from the election. We got 5 million people voted. That's part of the assumption. So we are the only legitimate government in this area, okay?
But with no police and no army.
Correct. With no army, but we have legitimacy. They have army, but no legitimacy. We have legitimacy, but no army. Okay? But you'll see how it works. Any other question?
For anybody to come as you, we ask the same question that you ask, but eventually from a Palestinian who been listening to this and been around Joseph and listened to it, it's just, the idea is that if we can bring the Palestinian and Israelis to agree with this one, this will be a unique marriage between Palestinians and Israelis who wants to create an entity to represent them. And that is going to be unique because the Israelis is elected by Israelis, Palestinian by Palestinians. but this will be elected together. So that will bring a lot of support from the internationals and from the Palestinian and Israeli together.
Okay, I saw Troy, you raised your hand. What's your question?
Yeah, no, I don't have a question. I just want to support what you've been saying. And so an answer for the other people.
All right.
I think
Okay.
when you're saying we have legitimacy and we don't have an army, they have an army, they don't have legitimacy. They have some legitimacy, but you're absolutely right. You are building a moral, psychological institution, and you're helping to bring together both peoples to create step by step over time, more trust, more willingness to compromise and so forth. So I think people have to see this as a process. It's not an instantaneous solution to anything, but I think you're right that you're trying to create a process which over time will bring people together. And so their willingness to finally make peace eventually, you don't know exactly how, but of course, which is normal, but you're
No,
betting on the fact.
we do know how. All
No, I
right.
mean, the people will have
Yeah.
to decide, the people elected will have to decide, but so we cannot predict. But you're absolutely correct that you want to create the conditions so that the people with personal face-to-face contact in a formal setting, in a political setting, that they learn to get along and work together, and ultimately they create peace. So I think
Right.
Add to that.
All right, wait, we need to move on. We need to
Yeah,
move on.
but one thing.
Let's take a vote. Let's take a vote. We need, wait.
Joseph, one second. And this is the start actually, because as a Palestinian, I never experienced to sit with Israelis or Jewish in my life. This is a start. If I can communicate with you and accept you and you accept me, we could translate this to our communities, little by little.
That's fine. I agree. This is like a theoretical framework, Yaala. And it's like an idea. It could work, maybe.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Do you ratify the Constitution? Okay, I believe there are, 10 out of 10 Palestinian parliament members voted yes. That's 100%. Stop sharing. Share the results. Okay. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Israeli parliament members. Okay, I believe we have 10, so we need to have 2 more votes. Okay, 2 are not voting, so stop share. Okay, so 8 out of 8. So 100% of those who voted in favor. So congratulations, we have a constitution, we have a government, we have a president, we have a parliament, and now we are going into more business that would clarify some of the issues. I believe that a lot of you probably say, well, we had the speaker say Israel will not allow it. They don't have a legal authority. Palestinians don't have a legal authority or the moral authority to object. They don't have legitimacy, and they never attempted to disrupt. Actually, we had this election on December 12, 2012. Didn't go so well, but we had a full-page ad in the New York Times announcing the election, and the Israeli and the Palestinian governments did not object. And we actually had the election. It didn't go well because there was no much awareness of the election. Okay. Our first order of legislative business is granting a veto power to the separate government. We are the legitimate government of the whole area. We are now deciding who to give legitimate to. So, Yaela, this may answer your question because we are acting based on the reality today. So I am the president. I am proposing to give this veto power to the separate government. And Libby, could you please read the legislation?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel, the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and in the event of changes of governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed.
All right. Does anyone have questions regarding this piece of legislation that I am the president, I introduced to the parliament? You have it, Yaela, do you have any questions regarding?
No, I think this, you have to do this part because if you give them and if you don't give them veto, they'll do it anyhow.
Troy, you raise your hand. Do you have questions?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's just a technical detail, but I think Hamas should be the government of Gaza, not Hamas, because if tomorrow somebody else is elected, then it wouldn't be Hamas, it would be the government of Gaza. So I think it's just be amended to say, because Hamas is a political party, it's not a government. So if you say, it's as if you said we give.
They are in control of Gaza, and we need their cooperation.
Yeah, but formally speaking, but not formally speaking, it's as if you say we give it to Likud. It's a political party. You see what I mean? It's just
The Likud does not control any part of Israel. We don't need to give Likud a veto power, but we cannot do anything.
But my point is, as a political scientist, Joseph, sorry, no political scientist, Hamas is a political party. It's not a government. You must write the government of Gaza.
Okay, but I am
because what if tomorrow? What if tomorrow there is an election?
Wait. Okay, I am the president of the common government. Okay, political scientist is good, but I have to do business in Gaza, and I want to help my people in Gaza. Okay, and the people that are blocking me in Gaza is Hamas. So I want to give a veto power to Hamas because
Joseph, can't you?
So that means that.
Can't you compromise and
tomorrow...
Troy, just a second. Can't you compromise and just say the authority in Gaza? You get both.
No, because I want to respect them. I don't want to go in front of them and pretend that they don't exist. I want to respect them.
That's why I said earlier, let's just call all of us Palestinians, does not matter if they are in the West Bank or Gaza, and let the people vote whether the Hamas or the BA agree or disagree.
All right, let's take a vote.
But it really is the Hamas that in effect is running Gaza and has been for a bunch of years. It really is the Hamas.
Palestinian parliament members, please vote on this veto power. Okay, publish the vote. We have 88% voted yes of the Palestinian parliament members, 13% voted no. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Israeli parliament members, you supported the veto power. Okay, and the voting. Published the vote. 78% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of, so we agreed to give the government of Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas a veto power. Yeah, as Larry Wilkerson pointed out last time, and I want to emphasize this time, in the event of changes in government, this legislation may be amended or repealed. This is not a permanent legislation. So we may decide not to give to withdraw a veto power from any of the governments or to change it altogether if there are different governments. Okay, so
But Joseph, you don't seem to take into consideration the way politics really works. Let's say tomorrow we pass this legislation. Tomorrow there's an election there's an election in Gaza. Another political party takes charge. Then you're going to have to introduce a new legislation to change to the new government. But this takes time. This takes time. Your hands will be bound for maybe months or I don't know how long, because in the meantime, you will not be able to deal with the government in place.
correct.
Which doesn't make sense.
I decided that I'd much rather be effective now rather than worrying about something that will happen in the future. I want to implement legislation right now, and I want to have good relations with Hamas and with the PA.
I agree with that. I agree with
All
you,
right.
but the Palestinian people, you want good, remember one thing, Joseph, it's the people you have to talk to. It's the people. If you want democracy, your goal is democracy. You're based on
I already
democracy.
got 5 million
So-
votes. I already got 5 million votes.
The
Okay.
point is that it doesn't
We
change your
have-
basic
Troy,
premises is
we
good.
cannot beat this to death. We have to move to the first legislation. Teaching
Okay.
is an understanding. Libby, could you please read the first legislation?
Both educational systems to teach tolerance in their public schools. Devote a certain number of hours for both sides to teach the history of the Israelis and the Palestinians. Prioritizing teaching Arabic and Hebrew in public schools to achieve proficiency of both languages by Israeli and Palestinian students. Create a mutual task force to ensure the teaching of both languages. Educators to draft textbooks together and arrange for a regular exchange of teachers. Public media on both sides to provide fair and equal coverage daily for teaching tolerance. IPC as facilitator to ensure that both sides are fairly represented. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas, and we bestow upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
Right, so this is the first legislation in which the separate governments will have a veto power. Yeah, Ella, do you have any questions regarding this legislation?
This kind of legislation should exist without this Israeli Palestinian Confederation, and it doesn't. So I know as a Israeli Jew that lives in a secular community, we're not allowed to teach our children tolerance in school. So I mean, it's it's frowned upon, and sometimes teachers can be kicked out because of it. So I mean, I'm all for it, but I don't know how you can implement it if we can't implement it today for our own children when we wish for it. I mean, I'm a bit stuck in how it is done rather than what is good. This is good regardless of the federation, and we can't do it. We're not allowed to.
Right, you cannot do it because of there is no common government. The purpose of this legislation is not to show you a good legislation. It's to show you how a common government that is being elected by the people of Israel and Palestine will have the power to force this legislation on the Palestinian side. So
Question, who does the Ministry of Education belong to? Who pays the teachers? The Confederation or the Israeli government?
in the Israeli system, it's the Israeli government. In the Palestinian, it's the Palestinian government.
So I'm asking because I don't understand. How can such a wonderful legislation, okay, be forced to be implemented if you don't have the tools for implementation, which is the teachers?
No, we have further legislation of a mutual police force that would and a court system that would implement enforce our legislation.
So we also have prisons.
We may. Yes, we may. We are a common government. We are the only government of that area. We will do whatever is necessary,
And taxes.
okay? Yes,
So we also enforce taxes,
yes,
additional taxes.
yes. We, like I said at the beginning, I cannot show you each and every legislation.
I understand.
All right. Any other questions? Questions, not comments, please, questions. Okay, hearing no questions, let's have the
There
Palestinian.
are a lot of people who with their hands up, Joseph.
Okay, so you need to speak up because I don't really see your hand. I'm sorry, I just don't see. I have.
Go ahead, Tariq.
Troy, you've
Tariq,
spoken
stand-
many
you have mute,
times.
Tariq. You have
Troy,
mute.
you've spoken many times. Can we go to Tariq and then Rita and then, were you trying to say something, Said?
Oh, questions, please, questions.
Just question.
Tariq, you have any question? Tariq, you've been put in your hand. You are in mute.
Yes, I know. I was waiting for my turn. I don't have a question. I have a comment, so I will reserve right now.
Yeah, okay. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation.
Joseph, Rita is waiting to ask a question. Hold on.
Who is that?
Rita,
It's okay.
Okay, please ask your question.
I didn't want to ask a question. I wanted to make a statement. I was an educator and I taught tolerance. I have discovered through friends in corporate world that tolerance is taught, and DEI, the idea that you incorporate everybody and you teach each other. I'm teaching myself Arabic because we all need to learn each other's languages to understand each other's ideas. And I think that the schools have done a bit of that effort in Israel. I know that some of my friends, there's
Okay, Rita, please, can we limit
Okay.
the question?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Palestinian parliament members, please finish your vote. Okay, and let's end the vote and publish it. 9 out of 9, 100% of those who voted for this. Let's have the Israeli parliament members, please vote. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Okay, publish the vote. 9 out of 9, same number, voted in favor of this legislation. So now we are going to go to the Israeli Prime Minister. Mrs. Netanyahu, Miss Israeli Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation? Sharon, are you going to veto this legislation? Israeli Prime Minister. Okay, let's go to the PA leader. Are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I'm not.
Okay, let's go to the Hamas leader. Mr. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
Negative.
Okay. let's-
And I also, I will not veto it.
Okay, great. All right. So thank you. We passed a very important legislation.
My comment on this, please.
It's to show how we are putting the Israeli and the Palestinian leaders in such a position that they will not be able to veto reasonable legislation. That's the purpose.
Can I comment on this, please?
Yes, you're the guest. Yes.
Thank you. I don't have much to say to the PA or the Hamas. Can you hear me?
yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. But to the regarding the Israeli Prime Minister, I know that he would not. He would veto it. He has in his government Can you still hear me?
yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, for some reason my Zoom is not responding, so I don't know. Anyhow,
I see.
so
We hear you fine. Don't
The
worry.
picture froze, but your voice is gone.
okay, I can see my pic doesn't look that pretty when I'm freezing like that. Oh well. Anyhow, so government currently would veto it because we have a majority of ultra-Orthodox and settlers and other right-wing people inside our government, and they will not want anybody to interfere with their ability to continue and educate their kids towards intolerance. So maybe a different government would, but our Israeli government currently will not.
Okay,
It will
so,
veto it.
all right, so I am the president. I was elected by 1.5 million people, more than Netanyahu, more than, I would go all over Israel, Palestine, all over the world in order to expose the intolerance of this government if they decide to veto it. Because they always said that the reason there is no peace is because the Palestinians do not teach tolerance of their children. And here is a legislation that the Hamas leader and the PA leader agree to teach tolerance, and they will lose international legitimacy if they veto this legislation. And I will make sure of it.
But then you lose what you said beforehand, that there is a real veto ability for the governments. You're saying, yes, there's a
No.
veto ability, but I'll shame them. And
I
I,
will, yes, a veto means I can pressure them. First,
okay,
it's a
and I-
political struggle. It's a
Joseph, I mean, I'm all for this, but and I'm all for what you're doing, but I know that if you would present, if you would create this confederation today, and you would present this in front of the Israeli government, they would veto it, and they would not care at all what the world says about it. Come on, look at what we're
No,
doing
no,
with
wait.
10,000 times worse,
Okay,
and they
you
don't
say
care.
you say you know, okay?
Yes.
You don't know. Nobody knows.
No, but I'm
We
assuming.
haven't had an election of this magnitude with 5 million people voting is a different constellation of reality than what you have right now.
I don't think so. I think that
Okay,
I
well,
really, really-
I know, but with all due respect, we don't know, okay?
Joseph, if you look at what is happening in Israel today, if we have 500,000 people who are walking in the streets, that means we have a majority of Israelis against dictatorship, not for tolerance, against dictatorship. And we're still having this legislation for dictatorship. So
Well,
I
didn't Netanyahu stop the legislation?
no, he said himself, I'm
Wait,
not going to
wait,
revamp and come back.
he already succumbed to the pressure.
No,
He has suspended.
Well, I'm
Yes.
sorry,
no,
they were
I
going to
think it's
vote
the wrong
last week.
reading. Joseph, it's the wrong reading of the situation right now. It is not true. Right now, Netanyahu is saying it's on hold. It's been laid on the Knesset table to be legislated, and it will take at the most 6
Okay.
hours to be legislated. I don't think that if anything is
but
on-
wait a minute, we have to deal with reality. The legislation for whatever legislation he wanted was scheduled for last week, okay? He placed it on hold. He placed it on hold because of the public demand, okay? That's the reality. You have
the
to,
reality is that it's not stopped. That's the reality.
okay,
and that's-
it was not stopped, but he succumbed to the pressure.
And
Okay.
what did he say to the president of the United States? Stay out of my business. Joseph, I mean, again, this kind of teaching tolerance and understanding.
All right,
Yeah, it's a.
we
it's a
are
theoretical.
creating a reality, and you are basically saying that you basically saying, well, I know what will happen, and you don't know. You don't know. You claim you know, but you don't really know. You don't have an expertise on that. This has never been done before. We never had the election of 5 million people voting. Okay, that could change the constellation and the psychology of the Israeli people completely, totally. And you're ignoring all of that. You're ignoring 5 million people voted. You're ignoring that we have a constitution. You're ignoring what we've done. You just say, I know Israeli government is in total control, will do whatever they want. That's what you're basically saying. And you don't know that. You cannot claim that you know how Israeli government will react if we have 5 million people voting. All right, let's go to the next.
Could I just add something, Joseph, before you move on?
Please.
That is that if
I have a lot of legislation I need to go, and it's not that I want to cut you off. We have a lot of business.
okay.
Okay. The Palestinian parliament member last time, Nasir, are you here, Nasir? We proposed a legislation to create a joint economic zone in Kalandia. He said, well, he's against it because he wants the total removal of the wall. And I said, well, that's not going to be accepted to the Israeli government and the Israeli parliament member. So I am bringing the legislation that he wanted for the wall. Libby, could you please read the legislation?
So this is about removal of the wall, barriers, and checkpoints between Palestine and Israel. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation is calling for the Israeli government to promptly remove the wall, fences, barriers, and all checkpoints scattered across the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza. And we hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas, bestowing upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation? Removal of the wall, prompt removal of the wall and all checkpoints. Yaela, do you have any?
Yes, I do. I was kicked out of the Zoom. I think my Zoom failed, just like the Israeli government is failing. Okay, yes, I do have. How are you going to make sure that there are no terrorist attacks on Israelis? Which is the reason why these barriers.
I'm asking you a question about the legislation. You
well,
have
well, of course.
about
This is
the
about
legislation.
legislation. Isn't this
Are you
about?
saying?
Are you going to put? Okay, I'll put it differently. Are you going to put some other security measures in place, trying to keep the
Look,
Israeli government
last time.
happy? Okay.
Last time we had a simulation, the Palestinian parliament member, I basically created, we had a different legislation that says that we will create a joint economic zone that will be controlled by all three sides. And the Palestinian parliament member, Nasir, was against it. He said he wants total removal of the wall. And I said to him, well, that's not going to be realistic. Israel will never agree to it. But because he's a parliament member and I am the president, I want to respect the parliament member. And I brought this legislation for the parliament to vote. That's it. So the Palestinian parliament members vote on this legislation. Do you agree with the legislation?
Joseph, you want to let Rita ask a question?
No, it's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess my question was similar to Yaela's, which is there any pre-planning before this to create safety on all sides? Or is it just this and nothing else around it?
Just this.
Okay.
Just this. This is what he's requested, okay? So the Palestinian parliament, please publish the vote. 60% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's have the Israeli parliament members vote. You have to think like Israeli, okay? Like you, okay, publish the vote. 56% of the Israeli parliament members voted yes. Okay, let's go to the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu. Are you going to veto this legislation?
Gee, I
You're
don't know.
not Sharon, you're Netanyahu.
Yeah. Probably it would be veto. But
Okay. All right. It's not there. You don't have a probably option. You have a yes or no option.
okay, yes, we will veto.
Okay. Mr. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
No.
PA leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
No.
Okay. All right. So the purpose of bringing this legislation is not to show, is to show how the system will work, and that we, as the common government, we have to create we have to thread the needle to make sure that to give, not to give the Israeli prime minister or the Israeli parliament members or the Palestinian or leaders an excuse to veto. This, in my opinion, will give them an excuse to veto. All right, let's.
Joseph, in my opinion, the one beforehand gives them the same excuse to veto. Look, I know, I have met and I have friends among politicians from the West Bank, okay, Israeli Jewish politicians from the West Bank. They were brought up in a school system which allowed the school system, because we have 4 different school systems in Israel, right? We have the one my child goes to, which is supposedly the general one. Then we have one which is for the Arabic speaking. Then we have one for the Orthodox, and then we have one for the nationalists, the religious nationalists. Now, the religious nationalists for the last 40 years have been bringing up their children according to their philosophy, which is nationalist, okay? And I don't see any government, it is extremely hard to vote not to veto what you gave us beforehand. I mean, it's beautiful and it seems wonderful, but it's something that will be vetoed because a big part of the power of the ultra-Orthodox is through their school system. A big part of the power of the nationalists is through the school system. And these ideas of tolerance, they go against their grain. You will not be able to pass it.
But I accept what you're saying, and I recognize what you're saying. But let's assume the Netanyahu government falls, okay? Would that...
Joseph, if I may intervene here, a fast comment for everyone here. Can I get 10 seconds, Joseph?
Sure.
Okay, I think there's a confusion here about what we're doing. This is assuming a peaceful resolution for all conflict. This is assuming a confederation. This is assuming a future of coexistence. It has nothing to do with the present situation and all the hate and mistrust. So we're assuming that we have voted for a mutual government. We are assuming that we voted for a peaceful resolution for all parties concerned. So the status is that what's on the ground right now does not really matter. We're assuming that we've evolved to a resolution for everybody. And that's what Joseph is stating. This is a simulation of a peaceful coexistence. Am I right, Joseph?
Well, not quite. Yaela is saying, because we are simulating that the election took place today, and Yaela correctly is responding to how an Israeli government would react to us today, which is what I asked her to do.
Could I make a mention?
Let me finish. Let me just finish. What I am saying, yeah, okay. Let's say the current Netanyahu government will veto this, okay? But the Netanyahu government is not there forever, and the next election would strengthen another government because of that issue, because we are Israelis and Palestinians together who want tolerance. We cannot be ignored. We are 5 million. Okay, Charles.
I just wanted to mention that another aspect of the delegitimization on this issue of the other two governments going forward, the IPC's reaction could be not just shaming them, but if we do develop a tax base, starting a 4th or 5th school system run by the IPC, available to all people of Israel and Palestine, where their tolerance would be taught as a prerequisite.
Okay, all right, let's go to the next legislation, a joint economic zone. Libby, could you please read this legislation?
Joint Economic Zone, JEZ, between Israel and Gaza. Exclusive IPC management and control. A common economy. Education, industry, agriculture, sewer treatment, desalination plants, solar farms, wind power, and green energy. International airport and seaport. equally accessible to Israeli and Palestinians. And we hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas. We bestow upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
Yaela, do you have any questions regarding this legislation?
I do, thank you. I love joint economic zones. I think that everybody can benefit from it. I like the idea that it's IPC managed, etc. I have a question though. I live in the area you're talking about, and I live
Yeah.
in Kisufim, right? By the way, somebody just made some big noise. I don't know who's bombing who, but okay, I'll continue. And my question is, I live in a really nice community. I mean, we're not bombed, we're fine. We're 250 people. I have a small separate house, one out of two connected together. I hear birds in the morning. Whereas another 1.5 kilometers from me is the northern part of Khan Younis. It is just south of Deir el-Balah. And they are both very poor cities and very tight living there. I mean, it's lots and lots of people living in a very small place. My question is, okay, so let's make a one of those here right next to my house. And we're talking about something that'll be less than 5 miles away from me. And let's assume that people from the Gaza side would like to live in conditions similar to mine. Okay, let's say I have a partner, together we're running this
Yaela, you're not dealing with the joint economic zone. This is
I am. In my eyes, I am, because my partner, okay, let's say Dr. Soher, she wants to live in a community just like me. Can she, or is this not part of the deal? You can make money like me, but you can't have living conditions like me. Are we just keeping that out of it? We're going to continue with this, you must live in your ghetto? Or are we doing something beyond that? We're letting you earn money, but live in the ghetto? I don't understand how this is supposed to work.
Okay, like I said at the beginning, you need to judge the plan based on the alternative, not based on perfection. You are presenting your partner that lives in Gaza, and you say, well, how is this going to benefit her living in the same similar condition as me? Okay, that's.
And let me continue my question, Joseph. And I asked you this.
You're not really dealing with the legislation. You
Let
want
me ask,
perfection.
Joseph, I asked, of course I don't want perfection. I want the end of, hold on, what's the word? Racist policies, okay?
Okay,
So,
are you representing any district?
yeah, mine.
Okay, so you are Israeli or Palestinian parliament member?
No, my district has mixed.
Okay, your district is mixed. Are you Israeli or Palestinian?
I'm Palestinian.
You're Palestinian parliament. Okay, so what just you do is you present me with a legislation that you think would benefit your people, the Palestinian and the Israeli people in your district.
Joseph, you are.
But you are basically you are judging it based on perfection. We cannot.
No, Joseph, I'm judging it on based on now I'm going to be me, okay, Israeli woman that lives on the border, okay. I am living within my shopping supermarket is going to be if we have open borders, I will be supermarketing in the same supermarket as my fellow administrator, okay, Dr. Soher. And so we are now neighbors, like real neighbors. And I am seeing, it's similar to what I see right now when I work with the residents of the unrecognized villages. We have policy which is racist. Now, if this new idea of a federation does not have a process of ending the difference, the racism in the ability from the process of the racism as we are living right now, unrecognized village, a ghetto called Gaza, then we're doing nothing. We're just implanting the unfair conditions that I as an Israeli have to keep on living with. And you know what, Joseph? There's no No chance. If we are forcing a community to have those who have everything and those who don't, we are going to continue to create people who have to believe that they deserve more. And this is what we have in this government. No, sorry.
right. Okay, let's take a vote. Palestinian parliament members, how do you vote on the joint economic zone? Okay, publish the vote. 88% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's have the Israeli parliament member please vote. Okay, publish the vote. 89% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Hamas leader. Mr. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
Negative.
Let's go to the PA leader. Are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I'm okay with that.
Let's go to the Israeli prime minister. Are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I will not veto, and will be leaving soon, and taking over for me is Zohar. Okay,
Okay.
now I have to leave in about 10 minutes, so
All right.
I will not veto.
Okay. All right. Let's go after participating in the simulation. Do you support a common government for the people of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza that will coexist with the Israeli and Palestinian government? This is a vote for everyone, including you, Yaela. Please vote. The survey question. Do you support a common government? Okay. Publish the vote. 89% voted in favor, 11% voted against. Okay.
Joseph, could I ask Ella a quick question about the joint
Sure.
economic zone?
Yes.
I was just wondering why, if that was passed, it wouldn't answer and take care of your concerns about the current inequality between you and your neighbors. To me, that's the point of the whole thing, is to bring new opportunity through all of those suggestions, so that you don't have to deal with feeling guilty or looking over the fence at somebody who doesn't have the same opportunity that you do. That's the whole point of the economic zone. So I'm not sure I understand why it would be a bad thing in your eyes.
In my eyes, I think that if we, I had a question earlier on to Joseph, asking, is this just a temporary thing that will bring to a different situation, or is this the end zone? Okay, is this the end story? And the answer was, this is the end story. I currently in Israel,
Wait. What do you mean this legislation is not the end story?
Not the legislation.
The government is.
the government's.
The
way
government
it's set
is
up,
the
yes.
government, the legitimate government. It
Yeah,
will
yes,
be elected.
That's what I'm talking about, okay? I am currently, what I do, most of the hours of my waking hours is work with the residents of the unrecognized Bedouin villages in the Negev. They have legally all the job opportunities that I do, okay? But practically they don't, because they live inside villages that don't have roads, don't have water, don't have schools, don't have lots and lots of stuff. What I'm saying is the fact that you actually build a place where you're allowed to come and work, you don't change enough the situation on the ground. What you're doing is you make it's you know, we used to talk about so much, are we only trying to make this occupation more humane, or are we trying to end the occupation? And I think that this idea of, okay, let's give them some opportunities, it's not something that I want as the end story. I want the end story that everybody between the sea and the river have the same opportunities and not only the same law. And by doing this, by maintaining an Israeli government, a Hamas or Gaza government, and a PA, we are keeping the same or similar kind of opportunities to people, which include also the right to have a nice house, The right to
How
have.
do you propose to dismantle the Israeli government and the Hamas
Well,
government,
if-
gay government?
Joseph, my answer right now is let what's happening in Israel continue, because what Smotrich wants to do is to annex everything. Fine, go ahead. The next step is one person, one vote. And then we'll have a
Well,
total
but
one country.
you're not answering any question. Libby asked you a question, you didn't answer a question. I'm asking you a specific question.
I
how-
thought I answered.
No, you did not. How do you propose to dismantle the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and the Hamas government?
The
Please,
same way they did it in South Africa.
okay?
Yes, BDS. I agree.
Can I,
I'm
There's
not
a,
allowed
there's a
to say that.
queue.
It's
Excuse me,
illegal for
let me
me to
just
say
say to
those
those
words.
people on the queue, please be patient. We'll get to you.
All right. Okay, so you're saying that BDS will destroy the Israeli government and the Hamas government?
I'm saying that what we need is a
All right,
total.
okay.
Well,
Okay,
I'm-
so
I did not say that.
let's say it does destroy those governments, okay?
But Joseph, I did, first of all,
What
please
what
don't.
we are
refer to my line.
what's gonna be after they are destroyed? It's gonna be our government. We are not proposing an Israeli government or Hamas government or a PA government. I told you at the beginning, these governments are in our way. We recognize that if they are destroyed, still our government will be the.
But Joseph, right now, what Netanyahu has been trying to do for the last 20 years is to, what, I've got it in Hebrew, hold on, to manage the occupation. I think that's the best translation I can do. It's not working so great, and this is why you're doing this idea of having a federation. But I see the federation idea as doing just a slightly better job than what Netanyahu has tried to do until now, which is to manage the occupation.
How? What's wrong with our government? What's wrong?
I'll try and explain it again. As long as there is a two-tier structure in which, on the one hand, you have this wonderful idea.
Are you saying that we should wait until those governments are dismantled? Is that what you're?
No, wait, I'll say it again then.
We are creating a common government based
that has no power.
based on equality.
No.
You cannot point at one iota that is wrong with our government. You're telling us that our government should not exist because there are two other governments that we agree.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. I'm going to try again. Okay, just a minute. This is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that what I see through this simulation is that this federation will have, it is built in such a way that it maintains a lot of power inequality between cities, between people in this area which are Jewish, people in this area which are currently citizens of Israel, and people in this area which are not. By this, when you asked about
It's not. That's not
Joseph,
true.
let me finish the sentence. Hold on, just a minute. When you asked the question about the common workplace, the common industrial area, okay? For me, it boomed, okay? It boomed in my, like it boomed in my eyes, okay? I'm sorry about my English Hebrew. And the reason is because on the one hand, it is important to give economic opportunities, but even the words to give economic opportunities, this is a very benevolent, Jewishly ruled area, which is being nice to the people of Gaza. And for me, as long as this is like, if you would tell me, Joseph, look, I want this to happen because the end sight of me is ending all governments and having one government for everybody, and this is just a process, I'm with you, maybe. But if you say this is the end story and we're going to have these three governments, which are a second tier to this federation, then I have a problem.
You misunderstood. You misunderstood. I told you time and again that this government is not dependent on the existence or lack of existence of the other government. I told you time and again that this is the only legitimate government for the whole area, but we have to recognize the existence of
Okay.
other.
This is
You-
what I
you
had
are
to say. I can't, I mean, I think I said what I can't say it any clearer. Okay.
Okay, all right. So at this time, I'm asking for if you are willing to
There's people who are trying to ask questions or talk.
Yeah, there's 5 people on the queue.
yeah, we'll have a program we have to go through, but if you're willing to, I'm gonna stop sharing. If you're willing to record a video that says that your name and your that you support, and then we'll go into the discussion. I gave the itinerary at the beginning, so if you are willing to record a video right now that said that you are willing to support the common government, and then we'll go to the questions and the comments. But do I have at this time people who say that they are willing to? I know we had Sean before. Zohar, are you willing to do that? Okay, so please open your microphone, and if you can say your name, and we'll wait until your name and that you support whatever you want to say in support of the common government.
Will his hand raised be recorded by the video? Maybe he could temporarily.
Yeah, you need
lower
to
it.
remove your hand. And open your microphone.
Is there exact
perfect.
I can use just my own?
Yeah, no, you can say your name and
All right. My name is Zohar Yanovich, and I support the Israel-Palestine Confederation.
okay, you participated in the simulation.
I participate in the simulation. I support the Israel-Palestine Confederation
Okay, and why do you support it?
because I believe that only full equality for all the citizens of Israel and Palestine is the most just and only solution that is suitable to resolve the occupation and the oppression of Palestinian people.
All right, thank you so much, Zohar. And your name is Zohar, and what's your
Yanovich.
spell? Could you pronounce your last name?
Pronounce it's Yanovich.
Oh, Zohar Yanovich.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else? Sean, we have you before. Anybody else? Okay, none at this time. All right, let's open for discussion. Let's go to Tarek, and then Shlomo, and then Charles, and then Sean, and then Zohar. Okay,
Zohar was actually second after Tarek.
okay, so yeah, so let's have Zohar, Tarek first and Zohar.
Hello, everybody. This is Tarek Rashak. I was born in Jerusalem, and but I lived all my life out of Palestine, and right now in Southern California. This is not a speech. This is basically just giving you a background about myself. I approached Joseph with an idea about 10 days ago, and I'd like to propose it to everyone here. Is that we have a march, a joint united march, equality for everyone in the Holy Land, or march for equality in the Holy Land, and basically being supported by this group here. And I'm willing to take the leadership in it to get it started in terms of the name, in terms of the website, in terms of the direction, and then hand it off to this organization headed by Joseph. And the goal here is in September to have a united march for Jews and supporters of peace and equality for all. Peaceful march in Washington, D.C. What will it achieve? I don't know, but it's a step. It's better than doing nothing. So this is the proposal that I have. Maybe we can put it on the agenda for the next simulation. Maybe someone has a question about it or comment. I think we definitely have to do something, and this could be a very good launch for the Israeli-Palestinian coalition.
And your vision is to have Palestinians, Jews, Israelis who support equality for everyone, and to have that march on the mall. Is that correct?
It is correct, but I would suggest it be led by this coalition, the IPC.
Okay. All right. Charles, can you,
Or actually partnership with them.
Charles, can you take a little, over a little bit? I have to visit the bathroom and I'll be right.
Okay, Tariq, would you like to make your comment now?
I just did.
Oh.
You mean
Okay.
I have
Zohar is next.
probably Zohar, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Zohar.
No problem. Thank you for giving me the floor. And Yara, thank you very much for coming to the simulation. I don't visit very often, but when I saw that you were speaking, after seeing your profile, I decided to join, thinking it's always fun to have an Israeli academic in our rows to have an opinion. Now, I attended this simulation several times before, and it seems that we constantly hit up the same walls where people don't really understand what we're trying to do here. So maybe if you give me 30 seconds, I'll try. I think your comments were accurate, and they come from the right place, as in how do we guarantee that this solution will actually guarantee equality for all citizens, both Israelis and Palestinians. What Joseph is doing is, through this simulation, or the IPC in general, is trying to formulate how this solution look like, and not necessarily the optimal world. I would not say that we have fought World War III, or there's a massive collapse of everything, and we've decided that this is the best solution for all citizens of Israel and Palestine. Now, how will this solution look like? What type of legislation will they form or design in order to try to guarantee peace? So a special economic zone is a good one. Obviously, it's not enough. You want to have freedom of movement and everyone be able to live wherever they want throughout the country. That could be another set of legislation, and then we're bringing out to vote to see who will be in favor of this one. You asked about the security solutions in case we put down all the barriers. So we can suggest having a joint military or an armed forces for both Israelis and Palestinians to maintain the order. So we just legislate for that one. But the question is, what do we do first as a joint Israeli-Palestinian government that is aiming for peace? And this is a concept that is very, very hard for everyone that comes to visit this forum to try to understand, because of our familiarity with the current political situation in Israel. But what we're trying to do is imagine how would this solution that we're proposing will look like, to see where do we stumble upon. So people will say, no, we cannot join forces on security issues. No, we cannot guarantee this one. No, that one. And when we speak it, well, we talk it over basically. No one is saying that there's not going to be legislation allowing all Israelis and Palestinians to live wherever they want in the country. This could be proposed and then we can talk it over. This is the idea, to provide some kind of gathering for people to raise their concerns of why this solution will not work, and then we can talk it over and try to find a common solution. Anyway, thank you very much for participating. I hope you'll join again. Thank you. Have a good
day. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Yaila, if you just listen for a minute, please. I'd like you to listen to this. I'm Saeed Aziz, and I should pronounce my name S-A-E-E-D, but they write it in my ID S-A-I-D, because when I went to make my ID back when I was 16 in the Idara Madaniya, they have to write my name. I have no choice to write my name in that time. I'm 51 years old. I lived all my life under occupation. I spent 2 years in the first Intifada in Israeli prison, was tortured for 86 days in Central Intelligent Prison. And I came to America and I see the opportunity and I see how people live in this country. And I dream that we can have this lifestyle in our countries. But as much we get older, I see both sides goes to the far right. They become more extremist. And this is gonna make us fail all in their trap. So what I suggest as a Palestinian who's been living in America, I have a cousin in Brazil who's a senator. He's the highest Palestinian ever reached an office. His name is Omar Abdulaziz. One-time governor of Amazonia, now two-time senators of the Amazon and the federal government. I believe the start from here, and start from America. Why America? Because America is the support for the Zionist government to be alive for the past 74 years or 75 years. We need to educate our people in America because this is the fund here. We have the money to send and support. I believe we should concentrate more and put in more energy, more people to discuss it like we're discussing it here. Like Brother Tariq just said, the march in Washington, we both carry the flags together, we both unite together, we both show the American administration that there is a voice for peace in here, and this is the start. And thank you for everyone.
I have a question, because what seems to be the point of discussion here with Yaela is I got the impression, and I'm asking Yaela as well, and I want to ask you, do we wait until the Israeli and the Palestinian governments are dismantled before we create a common government? That's the first question I want to ask everyone, including Yaela. And the second question is, do you see peace? The only way to have peace is to have total destruction of the system. In other words, are we harming the cause of peace by creating a common government? These are the two questions I want to ask all of you and Yael. Let's go to Shlomo. You need to unmute.
Yes. Yeah, to your question, no, it is the time to do things like that. This is a movement. You can see it whichever you would like. Yaela and the others, and I agree with almost everything that was said here by Tariq and Said, and of course with Yaela too, because I know where she's coming from. The main point that is maybe the center, the focus of the whole thing and the problem to solve is equality, because without equality, I mean, democracy without equality is already questionable and so on and so forth. So the equality question, we have to assume some equality, that there is equality. This is also one of the assumptions without which we cannot do this simulation, because it is a simulation. And so that's number one. And I agree with Tariq, it's a good idea to make a march in DC and as big as we can. There were other points with Yaela that I don't have the focus right away, but I would like to hear more from Yaela, if possible, if she can imagine this kind of government. Will you call it government? I more see it as a movement. I also another hallucination I have is once the bomb is falling on Israel, the Israel is being almost destroyed, then there will be no other solution. It will be Palestinians and Jews and Israelis, and we will have to live together and to make something together. And maybe that's a way to look at it. To me, to justify for myself that I'm participating in it, is saying it will happen. And it would be nice to have a government like this before it happens, because the future of the Middle East of Israel is very questionable at the moment, and in fact always has been. And I agree with Yaela about let the full annexation of the West Bank, and then fight for equal rights. Yeah, that's about my thoughts at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Charles.
I just wanted to kind of make a point that I think everybody's making in slightly different ways, and that is that in order for there to be a solution and for there to actually arrive at equality, there has to be a weakening of extremist identities and the beginning of the creation of an identity, a human identity that recognizes that these two sides will work together. And I think for that, being able to walk before you can run, of course, we're incensed by injustice, and we would like to see every injustice righted immediately. But I think realistically, if we're going to create a polity that has enough power to make actual changes, we need to make compromises. And that's what the framework of the IPC is about. It's creating that forum where those people can come together and work out things that they can actually do to improve their situation.
I don't know if Yaela is still here, but if she is, and if you want to respond to anyone, you have priority to respond to anyone at any time, Yaela.
Okay, so I'd like to say a few things. First of all, thank you. I mean, thank you, all of you. Thank you, Joseph, for giving me the opportunity to be here and to listen and to think about what you guys are proposing. Charles and Zohar said similar things in my eyes, okay, which are, this is a process rather than a solution, which for me is meaningful. And again, also you have to realize I'm living right now in a country which is trying to obliterate itself. So, and we are, I don't know how many of you live in Israel, but Israeli Jews who are on the left right now are, we're living, sleeping, eating this coup that our government is trying to make onto itself and destroy whatever semblance of democracy has been before. So I'm also, you know, in a very emotional place right now. I'm eating, breathing this, okay? So that's another thing that is, this is what I and all other Israelis, which are on the center and left, are doing right now. But I do agree with what you said, Charles, and what you said, Zohar, that these are things which are processes rather than end games. And that's important for me, very important for me as a way of thinking about it. And it's very important for me to be able to see an end in which there is full equality, in which there is reparations, in which there is the opportunity for reparations, in which there is affirmative action. Because if not, then we're not creating a good end of story. Or the thing is, what I am worried about is that whatever process, even if it's this federation idea, is thought about and used, that there is a future, which is a future which doesn't have to be today or tomorrow, but it can be but it must be always something we can see at the end, in which there is total equality. And you wrote, Zohar, that we have to realize it's the end of Zionism. I don't agree with that. We have two peoples, two nationalities in this place. And if you will define, I define myself personally as a non-Zionist, okay? So I'm not doing it for me right now, but I'm doing it for the fact that the majority of Israeli Jews are Zionist. But if we define Zionism as a Jewish national identity, and that's what it is, then Palestinian is a Palestinian national identity, then we can have both identities in this one state. Like you will have very few other countries that have it, but you can still have everybody having their own national identity, which will be formed in some way within this political building of something or other. But we need, for me, it must have the possibility of seeing the end and the tools to get to that end, which are total equality and the ability to have some way of, gosh, I'm missing the words in English, of expressing and being part of a national group, okay, that's yours. So those are the things which are important to me in any suggestion. And I would suggest to Joseph, are you still around?
Yeah, I am. I'm listening. Okay. I'm listening to every word you're saying.
And I think that for me to be part of an idea like this, and many others, and mostly Palestinians, to be part of an idea like this, is it must be understood that there are tools and a path towards that, and a wish to reach it. and an understanding that is where we want to get to. Okay, that's it.
All right.
And
Please-
Zor, you said both you and who was it? Charles. You both and Shlomo. Thank you. You all said it in a way which was easy to understand. So thank you for that.
All right, let's go to Samir Twer. And then if
Yes,
Sean has been trying for a while. Sean, don't you want to speak, Zahir?
yes,
Oh,
I'm going
me,
to speak
yeah, go ahead, Samir.
already. Hi, everybody. Yes, I agree with Yaela, with what she proposed. And to answer you also, Joseph, because you asked the question about should we wait until the Israeli government, the Israeli regime falls down. My answer to you, no, you don't wait. You, as Joseph Avisar, you drop everything right now. Forget about IPC. You go to Israel-Palestine and you lead the movement. Israelis and Palestinians for one democratic state. Israelis and Palestinians anti-apartheid. The problem is apartheid. Tear down the wall. Fight for that. If that takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, either you achieve it and it will become like South Africa, one democratic state, and you will be rewarded maybe as the president of the new democratic state, or you might die and you will be the martyr of peace. That is what I suggest. I think you don't need to wait, but also you will be part of what's happening over there, part of reality.
Both
That's what
options for me are not very attractive. I can tell you that.
All right. Well, if it's
To
not
die or to
attractive,
be, I don't want to die and I don't want to be the president.
already.
Thank you.
That's fine. That's fine. But I mean, this is.
But I am
one-
going there. I am going there. I am going there.
Yes, yes. I suggest you go there. I mean,
Okay.
you go there already. That's what
Alright.
I agree with Yaela. What she suggested. I mean, that the two people, Palestinians and Israelis, can live with two nationalities. That's not impossible. I mean,
Yaela, you want to respond to him?
no, I agree with her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And let's
All
go.
right.
Let's go
Thank you.
to Troy. Troy.
Hello, thank you. I don't know, people don't know where I'm from, but I'm from a place which has lived in the kind of situation where Israel-Palestine is in right now. We've had the problem, but not for just 50, 60 years like you. I mean, yours is baby stuff. We had the problem for 1,000 years.
Where is
Where do
that?
I come from? Alsace, between France and Germany. We have been at war since the 9th century, since the grandchildren of Charlemagne cut up the empire in two. Now, Joseph keeps on talking about being reality. Well, I'm asking you to be in reality. Why don't you look at how it happened here? How did we make peace between France and Germany, though we've been fighting for 1,000 years? We've had a wall which was 1,000,000 times worse than your wall. We've had wars. We've had tens of millions of people who died because of this. And you're not looking at how it happened here? This is real fact. This is history. You can see we have a common parliament. We have a common commission. We have like a confederation of Europe now. It's there. Look at it. Try to learn from it. This is reality. I mean, if you want to be serious about a simulation, this is real life. Europe has been brought to peace. Now, it does not all the lessons apply, but many lessons do apply. You should at least study the facts, the historical reality, because I guarantee you, I live just 1 kilometer away from the European Parliament. What is their European Parliament? It is exactly the parliament that you're simulating now between Israel and Palestine. except it covers 27 countries, 26 countries. It's an incredible example. It has a court of human rights. Now imagine if there was a court of human rights between Israel and Palestine. Wouldn't that be something useful that implements equal human rights for everybody? You keep talking about equality, but how do you implement equality? Well, you have to look at institutions. They exist here. So I implore you, I beseech you, look at the facts, look at reality, try and inspire yourself from what happens here. And you will have much more traction, because once you start talking about, hey, this has been done before, there's a precedent, people will listen to you much more. They'll say, oh yeah, there's a precedent. Oh, where's the precedent? Oh, that's right. It's been under our nose the whole time. We didn't even know there was a precedent. So I think this is what you should do. And that's the big picture. So you don't have to wait to destroy. No, of course, I'm not saying wait, but also don't jump the gun. Look at what you can do to create a common government. Of course, we do have a common government in Europe. We have a common parliament. We have common laws. In fact, 70% of all laws in Europe are made through the European Parliament. Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? There are actually rules, and there's veto power in certain areas, but in certain areas they are accepted. So I'm asking Joseph, look at what's happening.
I'm listening very attentively.
And secondly, as a detail, please, Joseph, allow friendly amendments on legislation, because I participated several times, and I think you will be more efficient. You'll go faster if every time you improve a little bit your own simulation. Your simulation right now, it's a good idea, but it's static. It's static. Politics is dynamic. Okay, so you need to take on board, if there's small tweaks, I'm not saying to change the entire simulation, but within the simulation, you must allow amendments, because in fact, this is what real life is about, a real parliament. You make a proposal, but if there are good ideas on how to tweak the proposals, next time you will have a small tweak, and then you have a small tweak, and I can guarantee you, Joseph, that you'll have less comments and less questions, because every time you're going to have an iteration. The entire point of repeated simulation is to improve the simulation. It's not to repeat the same simulation.
No, I agree.
So I want to help you.
Send me the amendment. Send me the amendment. Because I don't like to do it on the spot. That's all. Send me the amendment.
Just write it down. Don't do it on spot. Just write it down. Then you have several weeks, you have a month. Just take notes as people are, and then just say, hey, that's a good idea. We're gonna think about it for next time. That's all. You don't have to, that's what I suggest you do. And then next time you see, for instance, I don't know, let's say the guy, instead of seaport, there was something, I don't know, I'm saying whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I am amending it based on what people are telling me. All right.
There is Zahir and Nabil that are trying to speak, and I'm really dying to hear them. May I?
Sure, yeah, Nabil, go ahead, Nabil.
Zahir has been trying forever. Let Zahir speak.
Go ahead of me. Zahir, you go. Go.
All right.
Okay.
See Zahir on my at all.
Sean Zahir.
Yeah, that's me. The question for Yila. Earlier you mentioned.
Sean. Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Yila, when you mentioned earlier about the joint economic zone, and you mentioned that it doesn't make any difference because the two people of Gaza and Israel, for living side by side, do not have equalities because Gazans come from a ghetto area and Israelis do not. So you are saying that the joint economic zone makes no sense if Gazans and Israeli do not have basic equal rights, right? Is that what you said?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, first of all, joint economics, I started by saying it's a great idea. And I think that it can be implemented even without, it should be implemented. I've had conversations with business people in Gaza that are really wanting this to happen.
Hypothetically, if you have in the joint economic zone, one Israeli living side by side, like one house Gazans and one house Israeli, will they have the same electricity? Will they have the same water? Or one will have less electricity, less water, the other one will have electricity and water because they don't have equality, right?
What I was saying is the way that it was presented as a two-tier with the federation on top, and then the governments being able to give vetoes on ideas that or legislation that comes from the federation, then the governments will veto, or at least the Israeli government will veto the continuation of extra power and extra privileges to the Israeli Jews. So, for example, everybody will benefit from a joint economic zone even today because the Gazans need work and they're willing to work for much less money than Israelis are, and Israeli business people are dying to put their businesses right on the border even today. And it's a good chance it'll happen even, I don't know, what, not with this government, but if the other government, the one you had beforehand, would have continued, it might have happened. However, as for me, as long as this is not the beginning of a path towards equality, it's the continuation of what there is right now. And so therefore, for me, I must have to be able to say, yes, this is a good idea. I must be able to see how does the path look? Where is that path that brings me from this point to the next point, to the next point, until eventually my kibbutz Kisufim will be either adjacent to a small community, a small village of people coming from Khan Yunis, or in my kibbutz Kisufim, then there'll be also people from Khan Yunis. And as long as I don't see the path towards that, the actual idea is not bad. It's a good idea. But in itself, if that's the end story and does not continue and open doors towards eventual full equality, it's not good enough.
Okay, because right now you have a right-wing government, and I'm currently seeing those protesting happening with Netanyahu, and from what I'm seeing now is now that with this government, it's not allowing this equal rights because they're far right-wing, and then there's some Israeli left that are protesting against this government. Now I'm seeing that Israel is imploding within itself, so now there's not going to be just Israel. There's going to be a left-wing Israel and a right-wing Israel hating each other, just like they're hating Palestinian. And from what I'm seeing, even though it's a small percentage of them, so I think this right-wing is in its total aim right now and what it's doing right now, and I don't know how long this is going to last. Yeah.
But I think that what was said beforehand, that if you give people a vision of a better future, then maybe they'll start walking down that path. That's the one thing I can see coming out of this that really is meaningful.
Oh, one more thing before you go. I don't want to take you too long. You know what? These the right-wing government, the Netanyahu government, I don't want to bring this up, but do you deal with those smear campaigns that the right-wing government will start smearing people, whoever goes against them, and then start calling them names and start calling them because right now, those that Netanyahu, those protesters against him, they're starting to smear those protesters as they want to destroy Israel. They want to end Israel, and they're making all these allegations against them because they want people to think that they're not good for Israel, that there shouldn't be any Israeli left. There should be more Israeli right wings. Yeah.
The answer is of course, but it's not starting now. I mean, I'm already on blacklist. All you have to do is to be pro-equality, and you get onto blacklists. Not now, 20 years ago. So it's making it worse. But this is not about. I mean, if this idea of a confederation can bring about to people slowly moving towards feeling that like they can live together, then it's worth it, because it is the situation as it is in which Jews are privileged. Jews forcefully leave Palestinians in Gaza under siege, forcefully leave Palestinians occupied. We send our soldiers, our sons, our young men to be the ones who are policing them. You have to explain to yourself, why do you deserve to do this? And one of the explanations available is because I am worthy more. And that's how you get a lot of right-wing people.
Oh,
Let's go to Nabil, and then to Don, and then to Shlomo. I see. Nabil, Don.
Okay. First of all, hello everyone. This is the first time that I joined. I've been reading a lot from Joseph, but this is the first time I actually joined this thing, and I have to apologize because my camera does not work. because I usually would like to have people see me, you know, while I'm talking. I don't know if I have maybe just statements, just say a few things and see if people think I'm a nut job or what. But I want to go back to what Yaela was saying to start the conversation because I rearranged my thoughts. So there's a saying that says for privileged people, equality is oppression, right? I think Yaela, probably kind of like what you're saying is because you're privileged, and then when someone asks you to be equal to others, it's almost like oppression, you know, like because you are the better one. Let's say for it this way. The next thing I want to say is, with all the commotion going on right now in Israel, I've been saying this for the last several years, that the best thing that could happen to Palestinians is when you have a far-right government in place. Why do I say that? Because the mask is taken off. Because for Palestinians, for 70 years, it's like Coke and Diet Coke. They taste the same. So it's like Zionism and Zionism light. It doesn't make a difference. For a Palestinian sitting in the West Bank, there's been suffering for 60 years. There is no difference. There's no difference. Diet Coke and Diet Coke, it might be a little bit different, but it's the same. But now we see Coke. We don't see Diet Coke anymore. And that's what the world is seeing. That's from my perspective. Next, I want to go back to someone mentioned about America. I live in America. I happen to be in Beirut right now. In Beirut for 3 months right now, but I live in America. I've been there 45 years. And the Americans, the biggest problem that I see in the United States is Americans, they keep giving the drunk alcohol. They have to stop giving Israel drinks. They're at the bar, Israel is drunk, is wasted, and they keep giving drinks and they keep supporting. Until we see something like this happening in the United States, there is no way in hell the situation is going to improve. And the other thing, and the last thing I want to say is, me being an American, and this is something I post to my Jewish friends in the United States. I belong to a synagogue, by the way, and I belong to multiple Jewish organizations. That's why I think I'm a nut job, but I do. I'm a Lebanese Muslim Shia by birth, but I'm not religious. But I always pose the question to them very simply. Let's just say, for example, I'm addressing Joseph, even though it's not addressed as Joseph, but as an example. My question to Joseph will be, hey, you and I in the United States, we're equal, right? And I know what he's going to say. He's not that. Yes, we are. I'm a Palestinian Muslim. You are an American Jew. Yes, not is that. Do you agree that we live in equality in the United States? Yes, not is that. Okay, now we get on a plane and we fly 6,000 miles. You become a master, I become a slave. How do you, and of course, Joseph likes this, not empty as an example. How do you reconcile this in your head? Here we are, we're friends, we're equal, we have everything. And then we get on the plane, 6,000 miles there, you become a master, I become a slave. Or you're allowed in, I'm not allowed. I'm born in Palestine, I'm not allowed in. You're not born there, you become a citizen. How do you, I'm going back, by the way, sorry, the reason I'm mentioning this, I'm going back to the American psyche, the American Jewish and the American general psyche. How do you reconcile this? How can you live with yourself? I better stop right here.
All right, is this a question to me or to Yaela?
No, Joseph, great question.
It was a rhetorical question, but I wish to answer, Nabil. May I?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. The answer, first of all, I'm Israeli by birth and I have only one passport. Not that I'm sure if I really tried to, I could get another one, but I don't. And the answer is, how do I live with myself? Is by every single day waking up and thinking and doing what I can to change the situation.
Sorry, Yaela, this was not meant at you. This was not.
No. Let me finish, Nabil. Why am I saying it? Nabil,
I'm just saying that you're an American.
Nabil, let me answer, because why am I saying, why I'm answering you, because I think that people that don't do it are people who are being, are just, you know, serving what you want, alcohol or Coke. I like them both. But it's exactly what you're saying. But it takes a lot for somebody living with these privileges to recognize it and to work against the privilege. As I said, I'm blacklisted. I'm now, for the first time in my life, I'm okay. I mean, for 30 years, I've been the person who's a problem. Now I know how to create problems for the government. So people turn to me and ask me to do it with them. But this is very new, and I assume that's not going to stay for very long. But that's the answer, Nabil. Everybody, every single person that wants something to change has to wake up in the morning and say, what am I going to do to change it, even if it hurts, even if it's scary?
And if you let me speak for 20 seconds, me and Joseph met a few times here. I brought him to my TikTok because I have over 53,000 people following me. And now Joseph is attacked by American Jewish, and I'm attacked by Palestinians who call me I'm a cooperative with the enemy. I am planning something to change, to bring a Zionist project. So, and I saw a few days ago where Joseph was alive with some Zionists, and they told him, you are a terrorist, you are dealing with a terrorist. If you want us to believe in you, you must stop Edward Said. You don't see this guy. This guy is bad. This guy spent 2 years in jail. He hates us. He want to kill us. And I never say one word against Jewish in all my lives or my boss. So we are facing really a huge challenge by even sitting here and explaining to our people, who are you? How we are sitting with you? Who we represent? But they don't know by the end of the day, when my son Edward go to school and he sit with your kid, they both equal in this, and I wish to see this. And like Brother Nabil, he spoke in the heart of every Palestinian pain, you know.
Okay, let's go to Don Raphael. Hi, Don.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I've enjoyed this simulation today. I'm in San Francisco, an American, Jewish heritage, worked as what I consider a peace activist over the last 10 years in particular. And I think there's a lot of potential to this IPC. I've been enjoying these simulations over the last 6 months, but you know, when you sit through these simulations, there's a lot of contradictions built into them. You can imagine that things would be vetoed. You wonder how you could build a seaport and an airport in Gaza. Where's the money and the infrastructure how is the IPC going to do that realistically in the current environment? So what I'd like to propose to the group or to think about is, I think that a two-track approach would be good for the IPC to bring it to the next level. I think these simulations are wonderful and they bring in new people, but I would like to recommend a more of a core movement built, starting with the people in this room. I see about half of the group has been in the simulations, which I appreciate. I keep coming back, and to try to really build sort of a public peace process, build up these legislations, have more time to work through, because it's hard to go from 40 people in a Zoom room to imagining 5 million votes and a juxtaposition over these governments that are conflicting for 75 years. But perhaps we can bring the thought process and build these wonderful guests. Like, thank you, Yala. It's been so insightful having you here today. And Joseph has had amazing guests in the 6 or 7 months that I've been coming. I would love to see these guests be part of that core movement and really sit down and on the second track, create a more permanent ideas, legislation, if you want to call it, like a think tank. So that's my input, but I think we're sort of stalled in a way, in a good way, because these are great meetings. But I'd love to see a second.
So I'm going to take your suggestion further at this right now. Is there anyone here who is willing to be on a committee together that would be on the second track? So Don, okay, Shlomo.
I would also, Joseph.
Charles. Anybody? Libby.
I see Zohar.
Zohar.
Samir.
Samir. Okay.
And
I would be. Tarek too, please.
Tarek. Okay.
And Troy.
I'll send an email to all of you and
Said, Joseph, Said.
And Said. And we'll start working together.
And Troy.
And Troy. Oh, Troy.
Was the person who suggested the march, organizing the march, was that Shiraz Ramji?
No, that's Tarek.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have Don, Shlomo, Charles, Libby, Zohar, Samir, Tarek, Said, and Troy.
Gottfried.
I'm sorry?
Gottfried Hutter.
Joseph, could I share something about this idea?
Yes, please. I just want to know the name of that last person. I didn't.
Tony.
Gottfried Hutter.
Tony,
Well, he's-
Macaulay.
Tony,
I'm sorry, you're going to have to say your name again because you're listed as Gottfried Hutter. Unmute.
You have to unmute.
Tony Macaulay.
Macaulay. Okay. And do I have your email as Tony Macaulay?
Yes, Tony Macaulay 55@gmail.
Gottfried is talking and talking and we don't hear what he's saying.
Gottfried, you have to unmute yourself.
Apparently his mic is not working, but he wanted to be included with the
Who is
with
that?
the council. Gottfried, Gottfried,
Gottfr.
Hutter,
SU.
H is in Harry.
HUTTER.
Yes, correct.
Is it?
Why don't you put it in the chat? Why don't you put it in the chat?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, go ahead, Libby.
Gottfried.
Just part of what Don was talking about, 35 years ago, I participated with a group here in California, bringing citizen leaders from Israel and Palestine to a conference here. And we spent a week together in the Santa Cruz Mountains. We worked with Stanford Center on conflict and negotiation. And the essence of the gathering was bringing these people together to share their personal narratives, what their daily lives meant to them, what they experienced from day to day. One woman stood on the corner every week with the women who wear black. They were professors, professional people, not really politicians, but citizen leaders. And at the end of the week together, they wrote a document called Framework for a Public Peace Process. And that framework was delivered to the Knesset. And my husband and I went back to Israel. It was shown through the newspapers. We talked to many groups about it. And it really laid a foundation for the possibility of a public peace process. And at the end of the document, the participants all said it had so much meaning for them because it was the first time they'd been able to come together and see each other as human and equal and share their personal stories, their personal narratives. And it changed the dynamics because they made a human connection rather than politics. And it was through that human connection and realizing their dreams were very similar for what they hoped for their families and for the country. They were able to write this document, and it's available on a website called Jewish Palestinian Dialogue Traubman, Traubman. And that framework for a public peace process is on there. Even though a lot of things have changed since then, gotten worse, you'd have to say, the elements are still there. And at the very end, because of their experience, on the final page, what they wrote was, we recommend that as many people as possible, Jewish and Palestinian people who care, come together in face-to-face relationship building activities. And it was through that grassroots effort that the local dialogue, which is still going on after 30 years, still is together. But I'm mentioning this and talking about it because what Don proposed is essentially what happened with that group of people who put together the framework for a public peace process. And I think it would be very exciting if a group could come together and talk about relationship building and the humans who are participating. I can feel it every time we get together. I hear the stories, I hear the passion, and there is a way of going step by step where I think we can help Joseph fulfill his dream, but we have to really start in a new way to give it life. I agree with Don that we've been doing this a long time. And now it's kind of, for me, time to fish or cut bait. How can we take all of these elements and start putting real form to them and making it happen before we're all too old? Anyway, so for those people who expressed an interest in this, that's kind of what I see could possibly happen. And I will see if I can get copies of a framework to Joseph if you all can't find it, and maybe he can circulate it to the group of people who are interested, because it's not long. And it has some basic elements that are still true today.
All right, thank you, Libby. I have to, I just want to have some closing remark. I believe that a common government is a possibility. Democracy is equality, and it brings peace. The country of Estonia, with 9.5 million people, is voting online. 40% of them vote online. An election is possible. $100 million is 1 day of war between Israel and Palestine, and we need grassroots support. If you want to write to your newspaper, and I am getting people asking me for this sample letter, I'll be happy to send it to. And now I'd like to give Yaela the right to have her closing remarks. Yaela?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody that is here, and thank you, Joseph, for this opportunity. I am really excited and happy that people are working to change what is here, and to change the power relations, and to bring about peace and equality and just life for everybody. And I think what you're doing, Joseph, is very brave. You're not just, all of you, whoever's leading this, because you're not just bringing up a suggestion, you're also willing to put it to public scrutiny by people like me, which is not, that needs a lot of guts. So good job on that too. And I hope that, not necessarily exactly this will happen. And maybe what we will see is that the right-wing Israeli government will eventually shoot itself in the foot, and we will all enjoy it. Maybe that's what should happen, because I personally strongly believe that after the big mess Israel has created with all its settlements in the West Bank, the only solution possible for this part of the world is a state that everybody is in it equally. There will be provisions for some kind of national identity for the Jews, Zionists, and for the Palestinians. But this is the only way out, in my opinion, and the only way forward. So thanks very much to every single person. I'm excited. I'm feeling, really reinvigorated after what we're doing in the streets for the last 3 months. And I must tell you also one other thing, that I participate in the streets, is that it is not only a call for not going through with this new legislation, but also making proper root-deep amends in having a real democracy. Otherwise, all we're doing right now is just putting a Band-Aid on cancerous wounds. Thank you very much.
I have a comment for all. I know social media is improving every day. We have TikTok. Ben Gvir, we call him the senator of TikTok, or the brother Joseph is in TikTok. I am in TikTok. I am. They vote for me that day that I am the most influential Palestinian in America in TikTok, even though with 54,000 people in my. So I believe, like yesterday, I put a few giant people between the Palestinian Arab and the Palestinian and West Bank put together. And the guy, he's an economist, and he worked in the press in the Channel 12 in Israel. So I recommend that we all have TikTok connections and come live together when we have time and discuss and put other Palestinians to hear us more, not just from Brother Joseph, because Brother Joseph has so much weight on him. So we need to relieve him and start putting the words together in different social media. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So you guys can go on. I am closing mine, but you guys can go on.
Joseph, if I may, real fast here, just if we can put it on the agenda next time we meet, the march. I'm suggesting a march for equality in the Holy Land. I'm suggesting Labor Weekend, September 2nd. It's a Saturday. I would love if the IPC can adopt this cause, and if I get an okay from the group here, or just get a feeling if you guys think, because as I told Joseph, the plans is to have people like Jon Stewart and very prominent Jewish American people lead this, and have a committee of mostly Jewish American leaders to head this, as opposed to Arabs or Muslims, because of the perception of the Americans and Jewish Americans leading it, as opposed to us minority. So if there is if we can put it on the agenda next week, if anybody has questions, and if you
also
guys
in the
can,
committee.
I agree.
and the committee, and if you guys can vote on the name of the march, and I just need the go ahead. I'm willing to dedicate a lot of time for the social media. I have a couple of 100,000 followers, so does Saeed, so we can get a lot more Arab Americans and Jewish Americans involved in this. But we have to start somewhere. So if we can just get a vote or something and give me the go ahead, I would love to have the IPC lead
Go
it.
ahead.
All right, Shlomo, did I
Can
skip
I ask
you?
you guys something? This is Nabil again. I'm sorry, I need to put in a quick question here. Joseph, I sent you, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar. First, I'm assuming a lot of you are familiar with Peter Beinart, right?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Hard to hear.
Peter Beinart. I'm assuming most of you are
Oh,
familiar
Peter
with
Beinart, yes.
So Joseph, I highly recommend, I sent you an email. I highly recommend, before I sent an email earlier today, highly recommend you appear on Peter Beinart talk.
He was already in our simulation.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so maybe you should be on his program. The other thing I want to tell you,
Yeah.
Joseph, is I sent you an email yesterday. We are fighting a war in here with one of our very dear Palestinian lady here in Michigan. Her name is Ghayda Arab. She ran for Congress. She's been attacked by the Jewish lobbies in Michigan because she spoke at a high school diversity thing. She spoke about her experience as a Palestinian, and she got lambasted by the Jewish lobbies all over Michigan. We put together a huge list of about already 1,000 signatories, about 200 Jewish organizations. Joseph, I send it to you. If you would like, I would appreciate it if you can send it to everyone and see if they can sign. I would really appreciate it. She is a phenomenal person.
Yeah, I agree.
Brilliant person.
All right.
If you can send it to all, I would really
Let me look at it and I'll forward it. Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Forward to the next step.
Everybody.